I'm gonna do this kind of the same way I did the one with Max. I kind of
Okay.
asked kind of this same type stuff and just see where it goes. But are you
Um,
where are you from?
So I'm from Canton, Georgia, which is like
Oh,
hour north of Atlanta. Uh,
yeah.
but I was actually born in Mobile, Alabama, but I only lived there for like 2 years. We moved around a decent bit when I was growing up, but we moved to Canton and I started the second grade there and went all the way through school there. So,
Okay. Why'd you move so much? Is that an out of bounds question to ask?
it was just my dad's job, pretty
Yeah.
much. We lived in Mobile, Augusta. We lived in Florida for a couple years too, until we finally got to Georgia. But yeah, just his job moved us around a good bit.
Augusta.
Mm-hmm. Augusta
You,
was where I saw my first snow. I will like never forget that,
oh,
which is
wow.
so random, but yes.
Have you ever been lucky enough to get a ticket to the Masters?
No.
I've been one time to well, I've been twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't win the lottery because I
Mm-hmm.
never win the lottery. But we had a work friend who won the lottery and we went with him. And when we went, it was like a Monday or Tuesday practice round. So it wasn't I haven't been to the actual Thursday through Sunday. And we went and it was already going to be bad weather. And we got to stay inside like 45 minutes or so before they sounded the horns and said like no more practice round at all rest of the day. And so they actually gave us, like a rain check essentially for the next year. So we had to wait a whole year. Like we got to be out there for literally like 45 minutes, barely got to walk around, and then they're like, "Okay, get out." And so
Oh,
we had to wait that year to come back, and it was hard to leave. That place is
I'm
immaculate.
sure. Ugh, I bet it's so amazing. My dad's been a few times. And someone I used to work for has been, and he's gotten me stuff there, but I have never been. But that would be very cool to go one day.
It is crazy, like the stuff you hear about now. I love the Masters anyway, but like maybe that I was talking about this with Max because he's a golf guy too.
Yeah,
About
he's a
how
big golf
like
guy.
yeah, like about how some of the things you learn out there, like the one that sticks out to me, and there are several, but the like little sandwiches you get, like the bags they put them in. I don't know if they still do it like this or not, but like the little bags that they put them in are green, like, and not because the Masters colors are green and all that, but
Mhm.
they make it match like the grass color green, like almost to a T, and
Wow.
it's for TV, so that if somebody, you're going to drop something, somebody's going to drop
Yeah.
something at some point, the wind's going to blow it, whatever. It's so that on TV you can't tell that there's actually like trash on the grounds.
Wow. They really be thinking of everything.
They
That's
be thinking of
crazy.
everything. Wild,
Yeah,
wild
I would never
stuff.
think of that.
Yeah. So anyway, so you all those places. How'd you get into where did sports writing start for you? Because I know for me it started young.
Yeah. I would say, as a kid, I always loved sports. My parents called me the son that my dad never had. I remember like playing 2K on my Wii with him. We would play horse, all that
Yes.
stuff. So I always really loved sports. And I originally thought I wanted to do broadcasting.
Okay.
But I actually started college as like I was in the business school at college. Like I
Oh.
started as I don't even remember, but something in the business school. And then it got to like my sophomore year, I was gonna have to start taking accounting classes. And I was like, don't really want to do that. So I switched to journalism. But I kind of always
Yep.
had it in the back of my mind. I did yearbook for a
Mhm.
couple years in high school, so I enjoyed
Yep.
that. But I really definitely got into it with an internship that I started I want to say junior year of college. So
Okay. No, that's funny because so like I mean you're covering high schools in and around Tuscaloosa and covering Alabama, I'm
yeah.
sure a good bit as well.
Hmm.
When I went to college at Alabama, and the guy I lived with when I had to stay on campus, like somehow I was able to get into this dorm just because he was a year older than me and he was already there, so they let me in.
Yeah.
But it was the dorm for the people going to business school that were going to be studying accounting and stuff. And
Oh
I
my,
went in I went into college like I'm majoring in journalism, like that's what it is.
yeah.
And so like I was like the only one in that building that wasn't having to take statistics classes and economics classes. And
Hmm.
I would see these dudes like, it's so funny to think about now because I would see these dudes that were like in our little common area and stuff, just like
Yeah,
grinding it, like, how do I get this? How do I get this? And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna head over to Mark Gottfried's press conference and like,
literally.
yeah, like, and I was like,
Yes.
I'm gonna go cover some basketball now, like,
Yeah, I'm gonna go write a story off of this like football game. You have fun with that. Yeah,
yeah,
that none of that stuff is up my alley. So yeah,
yeah.
I
It
could not.
was it was so much better that way. That's how I got my start. So I don't know if yours, like you said, you were on yearbook staff. I was
Yeah.
too because we didn't have a school newspaper when I was there. So like
Mhm.
yearbook was it. Is that what it was like for you?
I honestly, I want to say we did have a newspaper, but I just did yearbook.
Yeah.
The yearbook teacher was my English teacher my sophomore year, so I like found out from there. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's
it was
how.
fun. I got to write like I played soccer, so I got to do all the soccer
Yeah.
stuff for yearbook. That was fun.
That is cool.
But yeah,
Yeah. That's ours was like for me it was like we didn't write much. It's a yearbook. It's people want photos, obviously.
yeah.
And I remember like I think statute of limitations are up since I've been in high school, but I very much lied to my yearbook teacher sponsored lady. I was like, there were three of us doing sports in the yearbook. I was one of those three, and I
Yeah.
think one of the things I was handling was basketball. And at the time, at my high school, there was a guy in my graduating class, Justin Tubbs, that played at Alabama.
Hmm.
He played at Alabama a couple of years, transferred to East Tennessee State. Prolific dunker. He's been on the Sports Center top 10 several times. And I remember telling my teacher, I was like, "Hey, I'm working on this like season recap stuff. I know he's in the gym right now, working out for athletic stuff. I'm gonna go interview him. I gotta go talk to him and stuff." And she
Hmm.
was like, "Okay, here's your pass or note or whatever craziness happens in high school." And so I was just like, that's where it struck me was I was like, all these people are like chained to a desk, reading
Yeah.
out a textbook, whatever, and I can just like go and be like in an arena or at a field or
Yes.
whatever and like
Yeah.
talk to people and I was just like, okay, this beats anything y'all are doing. And
Literally.
obviously didn't write anything from that, just went and hung out with him. But
Yeah.
that's really where it started for me.
Hmm. That's funny hearing you say like sitting at the desk 9 to 5, because my dad, he sells electrical supplies. So I'll always like our thing is I typically call him in the morning, like when I'm up making my coffee, and he
Yeah.
gets so mad because it'll be like 9. I'm like, hey dad, like just woke up, and he's like, I've been at work for like 3 hours, but like he gets so mad. It's really funny. I'm like, well, you chose that. I chose this, you chose that. Like,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep. It just doesn't get old. Like I know I'm in a much
Yeah.
different. I know I'm in a much different place now. Like once upon a time when I did this stuff full time, like you guys do. Kyle was my intern for a little bit. Like at
That's
the
so
newspaper
funny.
I was at when he was still in college, he was an intern and sending him to basketball games and stuff. And just to I don't know. I'm the old man in the room now, and I don't get to go to as many rooms as I used to. But I love still following everybody who covers this stuff and seeing
Yeah.
how they do it and why they do it and where they
Mhm.
come from and what's kind of formed their life experience to get to this point. Like it interests me so much.
Yeah,
Where'd you go
definitely.
to college?
I went to Kennesaw State University.
Oh, okay.
Heard of that? Yes. So I
Antoine
graduated
Petway.
there. I graduated May 2023. So almost 2 years ago, which is
Oh my
wait. Oh,
gosh.
yeah, almost 2 years ago. Crazy.
Oh my gosh. You
I know.
graduated college in 2023?
Yes.
Oh my God. I am the old man and like that's no I graduated in 2009. Like what grade were you in? Like second grade, even that? Like,
9, I was 8.
oh
So
my
I was,
God. You're in like
what,
third
at like
grade?
third grade? Yeah. I
That's
know.
ridiculous.
I was born in 2001, and I tell people that, and they're like, "Oh my gosh." But now I hear of kids that are born like it's crazy. Like one of my good friends has like a 15-year-old son, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he was born in what, like 2009? Like he's about to be able to drive a car. Like it's crazy. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Like 2001, I was in eighth grade. Like I was in junior high school. Well, what the heck? But my first experience covering stuff like as an intern or stringing at, when I was in college was in Tuscaloosa. I think I'm trying to remember. I think the first game I ever covered, like where I was like, it was okay. You're actually doing this for a legitimate newspaper with a legitimate deadline and all those things. It was for the Tuscaloosa News. I think
Oh,
it was Holy Spirit. I think I
okay.
covered a Holy Spirit game, and then maybe I know I covered Tuscaloosa Academy a couple of times. I had a buddy on the coaching staff there back then, so I would kind of ask for those games because I kind of had an in and could get whatever I needed quickly and that kind of thing. Man, good times, good times. So while you're in college, like I was reading this, where does it say it? So the program, yours was journalism and emerging media.
Yes.
What does the emerging media part of that mean?
If I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know. Like the classes I took, I mean, I took the basic like video news production. I took a sports writing
Yeah.
class. I had a capstone class like my last semester. It was just all pretty like newsy stuff, I guess.
Okay.
I guess the emerging media is adapting to today's like
Your
times, I guess.
digital stuff.
Yeah, more digital, but
Okay.
I really don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, we didn't have. I mean, we had. Oh gosh, I don't even know what all we had. Maybe we had a video type class, but it was like a whole semester on using InDesign and stuff
Yes.
like that. But that was pretty much it. Like I mean, our deal back then was still like kind of like if you didn't write for the Crimson White,
Hmm.
you like kind of weren't taken super seriously. And like there were already people older than me like that had filled up the sports staff at the Crimson White, so I did
Yeah.
stuff for like I saw you covered some recruiting and stuff, and that's really what I did throughout college. Was this
Yeah.
was like I mean this was like Rivals and Scout were like they were it, like they were the two main deals. You were trying to get, if you were a recruit, you wanted to be on Rivals, you wanted to be on Scout, and like ESPN had started making like different I don't want to call them fan websites, but websites, sub websites of ESPN that was this one's for Alabama, this one's for Auburn, etc. And so
Yeah.
I interned for one of those, and at the time it's so crazy how quickly time changes, because even then it was like you do what. And it was
Hmm.
like a legitimate thing. Like if you wrote a story, it lived somewhere on ESPN.com,
Yeah, that's
but it was
cool.
like it wasn't the newspaper. And now those are
Hmm.
like, it's flipped.
Hmm.
So it got me in the buildings, though. It got you where you needed to go, so that was cool. But
Exactly.
I don't know even how they do recruiting these days. I don't know if y'all just have to like DM recruits and follow them or what. Back then we got provided like
Pretty much.
an Excel, like a printed like Excel list that had like hundreds of recruits' names, their addresses, their phone numbers, their dad's
Really?
phone numbers. I don't know who provided it. Now I can't
Yeah,
remember that.
nowadays, no.
Yeah,
It's not
like we
like
had
that.
like I remember back then one of these stands out. I never interviewed this guy, but there was what's his name? I think it was Nick. I think his first name's Nick Montana. And
Okay.
so it's Joe Montana's kid.
Oh, wow.
And so you're just sitting there staring at Joe Montana's phone number.
Yeah.
I
Like,
was
hey,
like,
it's right
like
there.
that's pretty
I
cool.
could just follow him.
I think I could handle that. So
Yeah.
I don't know how they did that or who provided that, but that's how we did it. And we would just, then you just look up a kid and figure out, how much interest there is in
Hmm.
Alabama really, and do your typical thing. When are they coming to visit? And uh I hated doing those kind of stories though. Like I hated begging them for like, hey,
Yeah.
how fast you running the 40 these days? Like I wanted to like I wanted it to be different. Like
Hmm.
I'll be curious about this from you, like what your approach is for different stories and stuff. Like my example back then was I mean, I would talk to, all these different guys. I remember talking to William Golston, who I think he's won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, maybe. This is back when he was living in Michigan. I think he ended up going to Michigan State, but he was coming to Alabama for some visits. Talked to him a time or two. Roy Finch, that was a running back, ended up at Oklahoma. A lot of different guys, but I ended up doing like a weekly story with Cade Foster. You remember Cade Foster at all? Kicker at Alabama?
I do not.
Much maligned. Poor Cade Foster. He missed some big kicks. But he was like, he was from Texas, and he
Okay.
was like, he's Texas. He's an outdoors guy. He's a hunter, but he was like a 6'2", 230-pound kicker. And like before he had an offer to be a kicker at Alabama, he had an offer to play linebacker at Texas Tech. I was
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
this dude's a unicorn. So
Yeah, that's quite different.
yeah, so like I wanted to talk to him, and like me and him just kind of honestly just kind of formed a friendship, and like we would check in every week, and I would do like a kind of weekly story of like what he's up to and how he practices kicking, and just random stuff like that. So that's a really long way of kind of asking you like what does your eye see when you talk to someone, whether I mean even if it's on the phone, but when you go somewhere, what are you looking for? Do you go in with a very specific idea, or do you just kind of see what happens and find your angle? How do you kind of approach coverage?
Yeah, I try to go in with an idea or like an angle because I feel like that helps. Usually, if I go in and I'm like, I'll figure it out when I get there, it's usually a little more stressful type of thing.
Yep.
But I try and go in at least with an idea of what I'll be like focusing on. But obviously, if it's a game, it can very much change. So sometimes it's just dependent on the outcome of the game type
Yeah.
thing. Like I had one I covered last year. It was at TA actually. And it I don't even remember exactly what happened, but it came down to like an interception at the last like minute, something like that. So
Yeah.
I altered what I was going to do and I did it on that instead of what I was originally going to do. But I definitely do try to go in like with a plan.
Yeah. Was that one of those instances where you're like feel like you've got like 75% of your story kind of done, and then you're kind of ripping up most of it when the game
Yes.
really changes?
Yeah, that kind of sucks sometimes, but it's okay. It happens. It's
Yeah.
like the best when I go into games and I already kind of like I try and talk to coaches before so I can have as
Mhm.
much of it written,
Yep.
help myself. And then yeah, it doesn't always work out that way. That's kind of a bummer, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's
It happens.
okay. That's
It
that's
doesn't
the
every
job.
time. Yeah.
Well, people think it's so easy. They're like, you just sit in the press box and eat free food, and like it's like no, it's actually pretty
A
hard,
little bit
really.
more than that. Yeah, a little bit
It's
more.
like a 2-3 hour adrenaline rush, like or at
Literally.
least like that's something me and Max talked about too. Is
I
like
remember hearing you guys say that, and you were saying something like on Friday nights. Like when
yes,
I get done with Friday nights, I come home and I'd expect I'd be so tired, but I can't go to sleep until like 2 a.m. Like I don't know
same
why. I'm just like
same.
looking at everything. It's crazy. I'm
Max
just
had such a good point about that too, because like I know it's got to be like that for any of us who cover games
yeah,
on Friday, but like he had such a good point about like if I actually want to go to sleep sooner, it helps if my game is further away. So I've got like a longer drive home to really like kind of just chill, gamers
yeah,
in. I'm done for the night, and now I'm just kind of taking a nice easy drive, longer drive home. And I was like, that's a good point, because usually it's like I get home and I'm still just I'm not that far
yeah,
away, and I'm still just like super
yeah,
wired, and now I just want
exactly.
to read everybody else's gamers and see what happened across the area and all
Yeah,
that
keep up with
stuff.
all the other scores. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But yeah, if I'm at a game at like TA, I come home and I write. So when I come home and do that, I'm just more like it keeps me up longer. But
Yeah,
having a longer car ride definitely would help, I'm sure.
yeah, that's stuff. But like, man, talk about like Tuscaloosa. Like like that very first game I covered at Holy Spirit. So that's
Mhm.
down. What is it? That's McFarland, right? Or is that
Yeah,
McFarland?
Holy
Okay.
Spirit, it's it's up there, I think. I'm not the most
Yeah,
familiar
I
with Tuscaloosa, I'm
I
not
I,
gonna lie.
I
But
haven't I
I've been
haven't
there
been.
before. I've been there a few times.
Yeah, so I lived in an apartment complex that was like I don't know 2 miles away or something like that from there. And this was
Mhm.
back that was the first game I ever covered like legitimately. So like
Yeah.
I didn't take my laptop with me. I just brought my notebook, a couple of
Mhm.
pens, a recorder, and I was like, all right, as soon as this thing's over, my deadline's 11 or whatever. I was like, I got to rush back. So I had left my computer like plugged in at
Yeah.
home, and I already had all this stuff like pre-typed, and I left
Yeah.
it like it was right there. And it's so wild to think about that now. Like, you didn't even bring your laptop to the game. What were you
Literally.
thinking? Like, these
Yeah.
days that would be insane.
Yeah. I feel
But
like lost if
man,
I don't have it. It stresses me out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Which is
So you,
funny because I'm not even gonna lie, half the times I leave it in my car. And like I'll just go in at like halftime or like the end of the game.
yes,
I'm like, I don't want to just lug this around with me because I normally stay on the sidelines. But
yeah.
mhm.
Do you like being on the sidelines more? Like, I mean, so most high schools, it's if they even have a press box,
Yeah.
start there.
Hmm.
They don't have room for the press. It's all the program buddies and stuff like that. Do you
Yeah.
prefer covering a high school game from the sidelines?
I definitely do. When I interned, it's funny. I would be up in the press box when I interned, back in college, but I definitely like being on the sidelines more.
Yeah, me too. They're like
Mhm.
that's what I've always said is like if I covered some games from the press box, sure, but I
Yeah.
don't like to because
Yeah.
I mean you're not right on top of it. You can't really trust. I don't know, I can trust my eyes better if I'm closer, but
Yeah.
also like I would always try to approach it and still do of like I want to assume what I'm writing is being read by people who were at the game. Like
Yeah.
I don't think about it like, okay, I'm just going to write this like this because you didn't get to come. But I want it to be able to tell you, show you a scene from the game or show, kind of show you an emotion from a moment or something that was said or whatever that even though you were at the game, you didn't get to see or hear this because you weren't that
Yeah. You
close.
weren't there. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that kind of how you think about it?
Mm-hmm. And you definitely get a better sense for things when you're on the sideline too. Like, you can
Yeah.
hear things that are being said and yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Yeah. My boss made sure to tell me though. He's like, Anna, because he went with me to the first game I covered,
Oh,
2 days
good.
last year. And he was like, Anna, always stay behind like the line of scrimmage, like behind the play. And I've caught
Yeah.
myself a few times like being in front of it, and then yeah, I
Yeah.
almost tackled. So I'm like,
You've gotten knocked. Yeah.
I've
Been
only
there.
got down once, one time.
Okay. I
But
mean, that's a
yeah,
good track record. I saw a girl,
yeah,
uh, she was at the place I was at the time. She was our photographer, and she, itty bitty thing. And as a photographer, she was staying ahead of the play so that she could
yeah.
get them coming at. And she's just looking through that lens the whole time, and they knock a dude down, and it takes her legs out from the front, and she
Mm.
literally did a front flip and then face planted.
Oh my gosh.
She
Yeah,
was
that
hurt.
sounds awful. I'm sure. I'm
I've
sure.
I've only been hit once, and it was at Clay Chalkville, and I don't remember the year this was, but I remember the play. They had a guy wide receiver tight end type,
Mhm.
DeAndre Woods. He ended up playing at Vanderbilt, and he was the biggest guy on their offense that was a skill player because of course he's like
Mhm.
6'4", 220 in high school, and he runs a crossing route and kind of had to extend, and he couldn't slow himself down coming out of bounds. And I know
Yeah.
Clay Chalkville isn't your area, so you probably haven't been there, but they're a school that
Mhm.
does not have a track around. Like it's
Yeah.
literally like little bit. It's kind of like Gadsden City. If you've
Yeah.
been there or heard Max talk about Gadsden
Yeah.
City, it's like little bit of thin sideline and then a fence. And
Hmm.
I got as far out of the way as I could, and I kind of like moved like that, like I was just trying to like almost matrix it. And
Yeah.
his helmet, the crown of that helmet went straight like through like my forearm.
Yeah.
So like I avoided the body hit, and
Yeah.
you've had close calls, I'm sure, and your adrenaline's kind of pumping, and it took like 30 seconds or so, and I'm like back to my notebook or whatever, and then my arm just went like
Oh,
that,
oh
and it
no.
was like a dead leg, like it was like that to
Yeah.
my arm. It took it took a while to get feeling back in my arm while
Yeah.
we were on the sidelines.
I bet you heard, or I bet you felt that the next few days too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
oh yeah.
literally like when I got hit, I was at Bibb County and I didn't even like fall. I remember he just like ran into my hand and my finger hurt so bad for like days. Like days. I can't even imagine being out there. Like, mm-mm.
Mm-mm. No, no.
Yeah.
Almost. I think I almost got ran over one time at Alabama.
Oh,
Like,
goodness.
you get like the last 5 minutes on the sidelines or whatever when you're
Yeah.
heading down from the
Yeah.
box to do post game. And it was like Alabama, Kentucky, and it was one of the first games that I covered there. And I'm still kind of like I'm a student, and
Oh,
so I brought in my objectivity, but I'm an Alabama fan, and so I'm just down there on the sidelines during a game, looking around like, whoa, like this
yeah.
place is crazy. And then like
Yeah.
a Kentucky player's flying out of bounds, and all of the assembled media there, we had to basically run. So
That's
almost
fun.
got taken out there in the last like minute of a game on one of my first games in that place covering it. So
Goodness.
it's not fun. So you've been was it coming up on 2 years now? Is that
Yes.
right? two
Years, which is
years at the
crazy.
Tuscaloosa?
Yes.
What's
It'll be
what's
August.
what'd you say?
August will be 2 years.
August will be 2 years. Man, what's your
Mm.
favorite part?
That's a loaded question. I'd say
Yep.
probably my favorite part is the people I've got, to meet and interact with. I love like the Tuscaloosa community. Everyone's just been so nice and gotten to meet some really cool people, make some really cool connections, and tell some really cool stories. And just the people I work with too. Got really lucky
Yeah.
with Max, and my boss. And yeah, it's honestly really just been great.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to cover? What sport? Do you
Definitely
have
football.
one? Definitely football?
Yes, I
Okay.
love high school football. Hmm.
Okay. What's your favorite story you've written in 2 years? Is there a favorite?
There's one I did this week that I really liked. It was on a girl from Tuscaloosa County High School. She plays softball there. Carly Beth Beasley is her name, and she lost her mom at the end of January. She passed after like
Oh
a 4-year
gosh.
battle with cancer. And I lost my mom 3 years ago. So like I really, that really resonates with me. So I got to go out there and talk to Carly Beth and I talked to her dad and her coach and everything. And I got to write just a story, on how she's honoring her mom this season. So that was really special.
Yeah.
Another one I got to write was on that was also special. It was a little, not little, 16-year-old boy from Gordo. He passed away last year from Ewing sarcoma. Really,
Mm.
really sad story, but his parents, they welcomed me into their home. And, Coach Smith at Gordo, I got to go over there, and be with the team a little bit about and talk to them about him and just kind of write a story, on his life and his
Yeah.
legacy. And that was the first time I'd ever written a story like that. So that was as awful as it sounds. It was, I'm grateful I was the one that got to tell that story,
Yep.
even though it's a very sad situation. Definitely those two stick out for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we do it. There will be,
Exactly.
I've
Mhm.
noticed this over the years because even though I started like in just the sports world, I ended up doing a ton of general assignment stuff and features and just kind of a little bit of everything, right? And I mean, it works that way. Like I was living in Mississippi, I covered small town Mississippi. I was covering
Yeah.
everything. And it's funny, like you look back, like I'll go back through like old articles or, Word documents of stuff I've got. And those are the types of stories that I'm like, I remember where I was. I remember
Yeah.
interviewing them. I remember this. I remember that, the details. And then I'll
Mhm.
flip through some and I'm like, I don't remember a single thing. Like, did I actually
Literally.
write that? I don't know. I don't remember at
Literally.
all. Like, I had a guy tell me, this has been in the last year. He didn't tell me this while he was in high school. This I'm not going to use his name in case he doesn't want it. But I covered his entire high school career. I mean, freelance, but I saw him a lot. And he told me, you know, most of these game stories, are just kind of the kids. The kids more care that you're tweeting and tagging them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
so he was like, I wasn't, I'd read the stuff, but it wasn't a crazy deal to me. And I can't remember if he has since lost his granddad or if he's still here. I can't remember. But his granddad was saving every single newspaper article that was about him and their team for like his entire high school career and gave it to him as a scrapbook for Christmas. And it was like he'd gone off to college and he was like, "Hey, Christmas break, this is the gift."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what stuck to me is like we think so much of these newspapers as like the next day they're thrown away, or if it's a weekly, the
Mhm.
next week they're thrown away. And I'm like, whoa, some of these things we write get stuck behind glass. Some of
Yeah.
these things get pressed into scrapbooks forever. And I'm like, that's what I want to write right there.
Exactly. It's like that's so special to be able to like capture those moments for people, for sure.
Yes. And for
My
them,
dad
like,
is, sorry.
no, go.
I was like looking through old stuff with my dad not too long ago, and we came across newspaper clippings of him when he was in high school and what, like the 80s, playing basketball. I'm like, that's so
Oh my
cool getting to see that
gosh.
stuff.
Yes. Oh, that's neat. I don't know. That kind of stuff is like I don't know. That's what really keeps me trying to do some stuff, like
Yeah.
y'all are doing this every day. I'm not doing this every day. But
Hmm.
it's what it's I can't let it go because I love that people will trust us to do stuff like that, like 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 even this morning. Okay, even this morning. There is a guy that I covered that played high school football. He went on to play
Hmm.
college and in some other leagues, and he's playing in another like a new kind of semi-pro type league. Now he graduated in 2014 from high school, so when I
Hmm.
really covered him, it was 11 to 13 years ago is when I covered him. He texted me this morning, and it was a link to his new league that he's in. It was
Yeah.
to their media credential request form. And he was like, "Hey, here's this if you want to come cover us." And I was like, the relationships like that.
Exactly. Exactly. You'll never like you
Yeah.
never know where they're gonna take you.
Yeah. Yes. Man, I miss this stuff so much, like
Hmm.
every single day.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I feel like it's something that unless you're in it, you don't really
yeah.
understand it fully, but no, I definitely love it.
Yeah. Were you familiar at all, like when you got the Tuscaloosa job? Were you familiar at all, like with kind of the lay of the land in Tuscaloosa and the programs or anything, or did you were you were starting brand new?
Literally starting like brand new. Like it's funny, I'm coming from Georgia. I'm a Georgia fan, so never expected I would live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But no, I remember when I first got the job, like looking at some of the schools I was gonna be like covering, and I clearly had never heard of any of them. And I remember like I first got here, and my boss was like, "Okay, like put together like a preseason ranks of the football
Oh
teams." I'm
no.
like, dude, like I was like, I don't even know these teams. Like, if he helped me, of course, but it's funny, like now seeing where I started. I'm like, I didn't know any of these teams, any of these people, and now it's
Yeah.
like secondhand to me. So.
Yeah. How did you like the same thing I asked Max, but I get curious about that relationship building part of things. How did
Mhm.
you go about getting to know, your different ADs, coaches, players across all sports? Was it just a matter of showing up, introducing yourself, or like what was your kind of plan of action there?
Yeah, it was pretty much showing up and showing face. I remember
Yeah.
the guy that had the job before me, he thankfully left me like a contact sheet. So
That's
I
good.
remember having to call, like, cold call so many people, and they don't recognize my phone number. So they're like, "Who is
Oh.
this Georgia person calling me?" So half of them didn't even answer. But I was having to do that with a lot of coaches. You're like, "Hi, just want to introduce myself, blah blah blah." But no, definitely mostly showing up. Like they do media days here. I would just go to the media days, or I would go to a lot of practices. Yeah, show up, show face. That's what I've learned. That's the best thing you can do. Show up and show
Yeah.
face. So,
Yep. Has it
yeah.
been like because most of what I cover is up here Birmingham metro area. What's it like working with just the different coaches and stuff in Tuscaloosa? I would assume everybody's pretty accommodating and really
Oh,
tries
yeah.
to make your job a lot easier.
Yeah, everyone around here is great. It's funny because, I work with a bunch of people, or not. some of my coworkers don't cover high school sports. So they'll hear, like the access I get, and they're like, that's crazy, because these people, they want you there. Everyone's been
Yeah,
so accommodating, so nice. That part of it's
yeah.
been really great. Shoot, I rode with I don't know if you saw my story, like in November, I rode with the Tuscaloosa Academy football team on their team bus to one of their football games.
I remember seeing you
I
tweet
did
about
that.
it or something, but
Yes.
I need to go back to find the story.
Yes, that was really fun. They were playing a playoff game like
So,
2.5 hours away. I'm like, I could make that drive, but like that would just be nice
yeah,
to
I
not
need to find that
do it.
again.
So yeah, I
Road
texted
trip,
Coach Wright.
found it.
Shout out Coach Wright. Yeah. It
Did you
was like
take the?
a question. I texted him and he was like, yeah, here's our itinerary. Like, here's this, here's that. Just show up here. I'm like, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you take the
Yeah.
photos that are in this gallery? No, Gary
No,
Cosby
Gary
took
did.
those.
Yeah, shout out
Okay.
Gary. He showed up when they were getting ready to get on the bus, and yeah, he got pictures. That was a fun day. And
So
now, going back to what we said earlier with Max talking about the long car rides, like coming
yeah.
back, that was a long car ride. And when I got home from that one, I was tired. I was ready to go to bed after that one.
That's what I was gonna. Okay, so they played Susan Moore. So you rode
Yeah.
all the way up to Bluntsville. Yeah,
Yeah, way up there. Never
that's
heard of it before, never been there
that's
before.
a trip.
Yeah.
So okay, so if you rode there with them, obviously you rode back with them.
Yes.
Were you riding on the bus?
Yes. So what I did, the bus driver was super cool. He was really nice. So he would just let me, like, it was cold out. So like halftime I went and sat on the bus, did some writing there. And even when we got there, I just stayed on the bus and like did some writing for my main
Okay.
story. And yeah, way back I did my writing and then got done, and I think I forget what was on. There was like a fight on that night. So we were watching the fight on the bus, and I forget what else, but
Okay.
a lot of the boys went back with their parents, so it was not as many on the way
Oh
back.
my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the cool stuff. I've got that
Yeah.
story pulled up. I need to go back and read it, but
Yeah.
that's the stuff that like that's the fun stuff. Like I
Exactly.
remember so not long ago because you get like you said the access, but
Mhm.
that access leads to being able to write something that people would not know about. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes coaches, this, they're different personalities and they're good personalities, but their routine is their routine. So they're not as detailed in what they'll say to you about that. And that's where you come in and you can describe all these things that are happening and it makes it
Yeah.
really eye opening for people.
Mhm.
Like I can't remember. This was about a year ago. Uh, for some reason, all my stories today revolve around Clay Chalkville, but they got new helmets and they're navy blue, and so like they've got three different helmets now, which is kind of crazy. But they've got like a silver, a white, and this navy blue.
Yeah, that is
They're
crazy.
I've known their coach for a long time, and so he invited me and some others to just come to their reveal. The kids had no idea, and
Mhm.
so I ended up the only one in his coach's office with the team captains, and he told them he was like, I'm going to tell them, he was like, do these kids know who you are? I was like, one or two might, like
Yeah.
might,
Yeah.
and so he was like, all right. He's like, well, because they might know you and know what you've written and where and that kind of thing. He goes, I'm just going to tell them that you're helping out with camera stuff for Max Preps or something like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, just lie to him. It's great.
Yeah. Sounds
So he's like, I'm just going to tell him that. And he's like, you just do your thing. I said,
okay.
okay. And so like, I got to see this like really like in record. I was like, you're good with me recording all this? He was like, yeah, if there's something obvious, I'd appreciate it if you don't put it in there. And I was like, well, this is going to be a fun day, so there's nothing going to be
Yeah.
bad. And
Yeah.
so like he just had that trust, and was like, you
Mhm.
really pulled back the curtain and you got to see like these kids' reaction to, something new and something that they otherwise, a lot of places don't get, and you got to really see the surprise as
Mhm.
opposed to just reading that, hey, we've got some new helmets now and they came
Exactly.
in on Thursday. Like you got to see
Yeah.
that happen, and there's a story behind everything and a good story. And man, I hung out there for like 2 hours just kind of hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Fun
that's fun.
stuff.
I
I
love
love
getting
stuff
to do
like
stuff
that.
like that. My friend Emily and I, we call it putting the flavor, adding the flavor into things. The
That's
flavor
right.
stories. Yeah.
That's right. Oh man, I love the flavor stories. Love the
Yes.
flavor
Best.
stories.
Best. Yeah.
What do you do outside of work, or is it just a lot of work?
I feel like normal things. I work a good bit, but yeah, hang out with friends, work out. I like to, if you can tell, I like to do puzzles. I finished my puzzle last night. I have a puzzle
Is
back
that it
there.
on the table?
Yes.
Oh
Um,
no. How many pieces?
Only 750. That's kind of like where I'm at right now. My table's not big enough. I tried to do an 1,000 piece puzzle. My table's not big enough for that. I got the border done. It was like falling off. I was like, I'm not even gonna waste any more
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Um, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. What are you trying to, so like what all are you covering now? Is it like other than high school, like do you do they send you like every now and then like, hey, you pick on this Alabama baseball game or go to this softball game? Like what does that look like for you right now?
I cover softball. That's one of my beats. And then Alabama softball. And yeah, I'll just help out like with football. I did some baseball stories this week. Next week, I get to go to Birmingham back at Legacy Arena for the NCAA women's regional, which will be pretty cool. So
Oh
I'll be covering
yeah.
like I've never covered before, but like that'll be really fun. So yeah, mostly high schools and Alabama softball, but I'll help out like wherever they need me pretty much.
Okay. Be a good time to cover some more of that Alabama baseball right now. They're
I know.
absolutely
I saw they
tearing
beat
it up.
last night. Yes.
Yep, yep.
Some-
And my trustful guy Riley Quick's on the bump tonight.
Really?
He's
That's awesome.
good.
That's awesome.
He's now his story has been told, but like he's he's very interesting because he's probably right now, I would guess, projected to be like a first round pick in the Major League Baseball draft. He's just gas of an arm. He was a 4-star football recruit too on the offensive line, and
Really?
his brother, older brother Pierce, was a 5-star offensive lineman recruit that played at Alabama as well. And so, like, he could have played. I mean, he could have been an SEC lineman, and instead
Oh,
he's an SEC pitcher. Just incredible. Like, I don't even want to say athleticism. He's just a ball player,
yeah.
man. So
That's,
much fun, man.
mhm.
Is it so much fun? Is it as fun as you thought it would be when you started studying this stuff?
Yes, it is a lot of fun. It definitely is. I think like when I first moved here, if I'm gonna be so honest, I had no idea like what I was in for. Like I did not, I don't know what I expected. Um, But no, it's been great. It is a lot of fun. It's always something different,
Yep.
something different you never know what's gonna happen one day,
Hmm.
There could be coaching changes, this, that, anything, but
Yeah.
I definitely enjoy it a lot, I would say.
Yeah.
So
And most of those things, like the changes and stuff, at least happen at like a decent hour. Like covering,
yeah.
like I don't know if you know anybody who covers crime and stuff like that. That stuff sucks.
Yes, I know a guy at another outlet and he'll tell me like the craziest stuff. He'll get calls like at 3 a.m. I'm like,
Hmm.
that is insane.
Yep.
Luckily, I have
I
not
yep.
had that happen yet.
Yeah. I
Knock on
remember
wood.
I remember that happening not far from where I live. Like I heard the police stuff, and it was that like it was like 2 a.m. and I was like,
Mhm.
man, it's not just like one police car. Like there's a lot happening, and I was like, any other person would be able to be like, well, I'll read about it tomorrow, or I'll turn on the news. I'm
Yeah,
going back to sleep. Instead, I was like, well, I guess I gotta get up and text the police chief and do this and that, and that stuff blows. But
yeah. I have gotten to dip into crime reporting like a little bit. I'm covering the Darius Miles capital murder case for us here
oh,
at T News. So I've gotten to like meet with
oh
lawyers and
wow,
stuff for that. That's been super cool. I love true crime, like watching that stuff.
yeah,
So I've yet to actually
that's
be in court to cover a court
okay.
case, but no, that's like super cool, the stuff I've gotten to do with it.
Man, that's high level stuff too. Like
Mhm.
that stuff covering stuff in courts is weird.
I know
Like
Tommy, my boss, is like I won't be able to have my phone in there like to record like audio or anything. He's like practice
yep,
taking notes. I'm
yep.
like,
I remember covering one of those things up here in Birmingham.
yeah.
It wasn't a sports person, but it was. well-known public figure, and I can't remember if the trial was either like 3 days or 4 days in consecutively. And it was like every morning by 9 a.m. I'm sitting on those god awful hard benches, and you're
Oh.
sitting in there, and like you said, phones are off, and you've got
Mhm.
like extra pens just in case. You've got a big notebook so that you've
Yeah.
got a little more space as opposed to just your typical back pocket notebook. And by the time, however long it goes, like 4, 5, 6 hours, you're like, I just covered 8 pages, like every single line in notes, and now I have to leave and write. Like,
Oh,
oh,
that is one of the worst feelings when you're like doing something all day and then you're like, I have to go home and write now. And it's like, where do I even start? Like, where I have all
yes,
of this information. Like, where do I even start?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
man. When is the? Do you know when the next stuff is in that case? Like, have they even said?
There's no hearings or anything set for Darius, but there is a trial date set for somebody he was out with that night, like May 5th.
Hmm.
So
Oh, okay.
I'm
Well,
going to that. So that'll be kind of my first experience.
yeah. Like
I'll be
this sounds horrible, but like as people who cover stuff, like especially mostly sports, it's like
yeah.
May's a decent time for that, as opposed to like
Yes,
March, February, or August, September,
exactly. Yeah, like high school sports will be kind of dying
wrapping
down.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know. I can't believe like it's almost the summer again. Like it's crazy. Like
yeah.
time goes so fast. I was at ACA the other day, like I'm gonna do a story on their baseball team next week. And I was talking to their coach and I'm like, it's crazy like being back out here. And he was like, I know, it feels like we were just like in wherever they played the state championship, what, Jacksonville, like out over there. I'm
Yeah,
like, I know. It's insane.
yeah, yep. It doesn't slow down either. If anything,
No,
it's
no.
cliche, but some cliches are true. It just feels like it'll go even faster and faster.
No, I've noticed that as I've gotten older. It's just
Hmm.
going and going
Yeah.
and going.
And just wait, because you graduated in
Say that.
2023. So
Say that.
I'm guessing you're what, like 22, 23, 24 years old, something like that.
Yeah, I'm 23, but I'll be 24 in a couple months.
I remember speaking to a creative writing class uh, at one of the local high schools around here when I
Hmm.
was still like a full time newspaper editor. And
Yeah.
so their like English teacher had me come in and speak to the class. And I maybe I shouldn't have. I should have just taken the respect, but all of them kept saying like, yes sir, no sir. They were calling me Mr. Lloyd and stuff. I was like 25 years old, and
Yes.
no, I was 26. I was 26, and so I just said, hey, no need, thank you, but you can just call me Gary. I literally said, I'm only 26 years old, and they
Yeah.
looked at me.
I
They
promise
literally
I'm not that much older than you.
looked at me like, well, that's old. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, I graduated college like 4 years ago. That to them was old. Now, whew, now trying to connect with some of these kids, I'm like, can you say that differently? I got no idea what that means.
The lingo.
The
Can't keep
lingo.
can't keep up. That's
No,
okay.
I can't keep up. I can't keep up. I'm like, let's just, regular old standard language is good with me.
That's regular old standard language. I'll talk to my dad, and as you know, a word I say a lot is slay. And my dad gets so mad at me when I say slay. He's like, What does that even mean? And I'm like, what is slay? I'm like, dude, like,
What
come
does
on.
it mean? What does it
I
mean?
just mean it like, yay, good,
Okay.
hey, like, woo. I don't know. That's
It's
that's
a
how I think of it.
it's a fun word.
Yeah.
It adds a little
Yeah,
flavor.
flavor. Exactly. Exactly.
Boom. Say there you go.
And I
There you
can't put
go.
it in my writing, but I use it like so much. My boss literally will text me like slay. Like it's really funny.
You could use it in a different context, like if you cover a game that's like 52-0, you can say that team got slayed.
They slayed the other team. Yeah. Blank slayed blank.
That would be
Kids
it
would
would
get it, maybe not the readers, but the kids. The kids
yeah.
would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. All right. Anything else you want to talk about, or you want to wrap this thing up so you can go right?
Go right. Lovely. I luckily don't have too much to write today.
That's
Um,
good.
but I'm good unless there's anything else you got.
No, no. I just enjoy talking to folks who do this stuff, and y'all are kind of the next young group up, and you know, I follow both, you know, you, Max, obviously I've known Kyle forever, but um I follow y'all from afar, and I like it's it's like inspiring to see, um you know, whereas in some recent years you see the level of oh gosh, how do I say this? You see some stuff come out where you're like, ooh, that's just not good. Like,
Mhm.
have you how long have you done this? And then to see y'all who are, you know, 2 years out of college and y'all are already killing it and doing it in a really good way, and you know, developing these relationships more than anything with coaches, players, parents, all that. It's really fun to see, and y'all have got most of this state, y'all's coverage area, locked up in a really good way. So I enjoy reading what y'all put out.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Anna. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.